William Henry Harrison was the 9th president of the United States. He won the presidency in election year 1840. On March the 4th, 1841 was Inauguration Day. It was a very cold, chilly, rainy, intermittent, snowy day in Washington, D.C. Without a jacket, without a coat, without a hat, without a scarf, he proceeded to give the longest inaugural address in the history of the United States. His inaugural address went 196 minutes. And in that cold, chilly, snowy rain, without a hat, without a jacket, without a scarf, without a turtleneck, he caught a cold. And that cold grew into pneumonia, and he died 30 days later. So there's something to be said for brevity. So I thought to myself this evening, I have a lot of people tell me when I talk to people about priests, say, the trouble with priests at homilies, they just go on and on and on and on and on. They never know when to stop. So I said to myself, tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in and I'm going to get out. Because sometimes length kills. Now, today we celebrate the feast of Corpus Christi, the old Latin phrase for the body and blood of Christ, where we actually believe as Catholics that the bread and wine becomes the body and blood of Christ. There was a survey that recently was conducted, and it said that only 25% of Catholics really believe that the bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ. And it should be all 100% of Catholics should say, yes, I affirm that, I believe it. I believe the bread and wine becomes the body and blood of Christ. Now, let me ask you this. The day isn't over yet. It's a little after 5 o'clock. But tonight, when you crawl in bed and you make an assessment of the day that you just had, and if you ask yourself the question, what was the greatest thing that happened to me today, what might your answer be? Any idea? Exactly right. There's the answer. That answer came out pretty fast. You went to communion. How many people, when you're crawling in bed tonight, by a show of hands, if you say to yourself, what was the greatest thing that happened to me today, especially you're here at Mass, and hopefully most of you, if not all of you, will go to communion, but if you go to communion and when you get ready to go to bed and you say to yourself, boy, the greatest thing that happened to me today was the fact I went to communion, how many people feel that that is true? Raise your hand. Okay, just a few. And we're going to try that again. Because the greatest thing and this is the message of the body and blood of Christ. And when we don't believe it, and when we don't understand it, then that makes a person, when they get to a weekend, and if they say, well, I'm not going to go to Mass Saturday night, I go to Sunday, and that's obviously your call. You don't have to go Saturday night, but if you do, as you are now, that's your option. But if you don't go Saturday night, and then you say to yourself, wake up in the morning, I'm not going to go to 8:30, I'll go to 11. And then 11 o'clock rolls around, you say to yourself, I'm not going to go to 11, I'll go over to Eternal Heights and bless the sacrament of the evening Mass. And then you say to yourself, just forget it. You see, when you understand that the bread and wine becomes the body and blood of Christ, you say to yourself, I don't care what I do this weekend, but definitely one thing I'm going to do either Saturday, Sunday morning, Sunday night, this guy, this gal, this person is going to communion. I want to receive the body and blood of Christ, because the greatest thing that's going to happen to me this weekend is to go to Mass, and more importantly, in conjunction with going to Mass, to receive the body and blood of Christ. So let me just try that again. For those, and you're here, for those who receive communion during the course of this Mass, when you get ready to go to sleep and you survey your day and you ask yourself the question, what was the best thing that happened to me today? How many people are going to say, the best thing that happened to me today is I went to communion? Raise your hand. Oh, now that's more like it. Because when you realize the importance of communion, missing Mass is never an option. When you realize the importance of going to communion, if the length of the priest's homily is aggravating, it should only be aggravating for 1 minute, for one reason, because it's delaying the process of you receiving the body and blood of Christ. You know, I learned something from William Henry Harrison, that the fact that going on forever and ever, that really kills. There's something to be said for brevity. So with that, I'm taking a page out of his playbook. The greatest thing that could happen to you in your life is go to communion. Amen. Now I'm up.